Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining the Breaking the Silence Together podcast again. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Jeannie Perez, and I am the founder of an organization called You Are Not Alone. And what the organization does and helps others is with mental illness, addiction, any type of addiction. We also now, just started also marriage counseling, marriage support, life coaching, career coaching, spiritual coaching, spiritual support, and a couple more. We have so many new now that we are supporting. We just opened it up because we have so many more people now that have joined our team, so that we were able to open up these new openings to help others dealing or struggling with other things besides just mental illness or an addiction. If you want to know, just go onto my website, www.you'renotalone.online, so that you can go through the whole list, because we added so many. I'm just naming just a few of over maybe 20 that have just been added to our organization. We were blessed with so many people joining us, and we're still open for as many people to help us out, because again, our services and our tools and resources are accessible worldwide. With that being said, today's share is going to be, I believe it's going to hit home with a lot, because a lot of our trauma and a lot of stuff that we deal with as an adult is stuff that we are suffering from, or stuff that we have stored in our brains and our nervous system from childhood. And I do believe, and I've seen with my clients, just speaking to people in general, it's not just one person that struggles with one type of illness or an addiction in the family. Sometimes, you don't get any, but then sometimes you do get one or more than one. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And the topic is, when it runs in the family, breaking the cycle of mental illness. How do we do it? And what I mean by that is, mental illness and addiction, they show up differently. For every person, it's different. You can have one person suffering from depression. Then you can have another family member suffering from bipolar. Or it can be anxiety. Or it could be any type of an addiction. That's what I mean when I say when it's more than one person dealing with an illness. Because an addiction is an illness just like a mental illness. Because an addiction is basically rooted from a trauma. So how do we go forward when we're dealing and we're in a space that it's not just us as one or as an individual struggling with this illness, whether it's a mental illness or an addiction? And, I had a talk with someone before I did it, because I always try to get different insights from different people before I come on and share a topic with worldwide, because I always want to try to give as much brief information that I can within a little bit of time that I'm on this live, that I am on this podcast. So I try to put it all together in the best words that I can, so that people can wrap their heads around it and get the information that they're looking for. And hopefully someone's listening to me that can use this and really realize, yes, that's maybe what I'm going through. Yes, that's what I'm going through. Or maybe that's what someone else that I know is going through, and maybe I can bring this up to them or share this information with them, and going forward, maybe they can get the help that they need. Because that's really our goal when I do my podcasts and my organization. Really the goal is to share insight with individuals that need to hear this. So hopefully this will really just give them that spike, that energy that they need, that confidence that they need to say, yes, it's me, I need help, how can I get it? Or I know someone that needs it, let me share this with them, and hopefully they'll open up and they'll get the help that they need, that I know that they need. So let's try to really just pause for a minute and try to think. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, they come from a dysfunctional family, or I'm in a dysfunctional family, or I'm in a dysfunctional relationship. To me, the word dysfunctional just means really survival. That's my definition of dysfunctional is survival, because I think that growing up and just everyone using that word so freely, I really think that people just learn to cope with the dysfunctional word as a coping mechanism, a coping skill. You know, to say, oh, well, yeah, my family's just dysfunctional, or this relationship that I'm in is just dysfunctional, but that's okay. I'll get through it. It's a survival mode. You know, you already noticing there's a problem, but you're just using the word dysfunctional because you're already in survival mode. And when there's more than just one person dealing with, you know, whether it's a mental illness or an addiction, because again, remember, an addiction is an illness. But you are in the same space, you know, whether it's while you were growing up, maybe you and your sibling, or maybe your sibling and a parent or a grandparent had mental illness, whether it was an addiction or an actual mental illness. And it was hard, you know, because you have to figure out, you know, everyone is dealing with this pain, this trauma of this illness, and no one is being able to help the other one, because each one is trying to help themselves within their isolation. They're trying to figure it out for themselves. They're in so much pain. Everyone is in so much pain that they really can't come up for air and help one another to get the help that they need. So how do we do it? You know, and that's the big question from a lot of people when they come to see me, or I've heard from other, you know, leaders when they talk to their clients, or they just talk to briefly to people, you know, how do they do it? You know, and that's the big question. And what I say is, you know, it's not selfish if you recognize that you have this illness, or you know someone in the same circle that are sharing, you know, that are sharing the same space, and they have this illness, whether it's a mental illness or an addiction, but it's already aware. You know, you're aware of it. It's already, there's an awareness of the situation. But it's just so much going on that no one knows how to say, all right, it's time for us to get help. And I get it. You know, it's just like when someone has a flu and then the whole family has a flu, everyone is so weak. Everyone's just trying to survive. It's the same thing when you have more than one person dealing with an illness in the same space. Everyone is just trying to survive, trying to make the best of each day to keep themselves from drowning. And I say to those who are being caregivers and they're seeing this, I applaud you, because I know it's hard. And I say to the ones that are actually dealing with this, and you're in that space dealing with someone else, and you know that you are both dealing with this, but you are just trying to survive, I applaud you, because I know it's hard. So my little advice to you is, because like I said, everyone's space is different, everyone's situation is different. But what I've seen from clients and people that I've talked to, you know, a lot of them say, well, I felt like I was selfish, or I just felt guilty just knowing that I needed the help. But my mom didn't want to get hers, or my brother or my sister didn't want to get hers, or my partner didn't want to get help. But I wanted to get help because I was already aware of my situation, and I didn't want to live like this anymore. And I said, well, why did you feel like you were being selfish? And he said, well, because I felt as though I wanted to do the big step. I wanted to make the first step. No one else wanted to do it, you know, and I really wanted to get the help. I didn't want to continue living like that, you know. It was like every day was a battle about something, you know. It was just so dysfunctional. He just kept using the word dysfunctional. And I said, well, the word dysfunctional to me is just survival. So you mean that everybody was just in survival mode every day, trying to do what they needed to do to survive to get to the next day? And he said, yeah, pretty much. That's what we were all doing. Besides, you know, arguing and really just not getting along, and everyone just wasn't connecting. Everybody was just isolated on their own situation. And he said, but I got to a point where I just didn't want to do that no more. And it was so painful just to see, you know, this going on in my home. It was just so painful because we all knew that there was a problem, but no one wanted to really do anything about it. Everybody was just so weak, and so it was taking so much energy from everyone that everybody was just so tired. basically almost giving up on each other because they felt as though there was nothing else they could do. This was just part of their life. This is something that they had to deal with, and they just had to move forward, just dealing with this every day the best way that they could. And as he got older, he said that he didn't want that. He didn't want that. He didn't want to go away from that space, take it into another space, and felt as though he had to stay like that, isolated. So, he was still young, so he had told his parent, he had told his mom, he said that he wanted to talk to somebody who just was tired of it, and he wanted some kind of help. He wasn't sure what type of help he needed, but he knew that he needed some type of help because he was young. But he just knew that he wanted to talk to somebody besides just talking to his parent. He wanted to talk to somebody else that he can really just express everything that he was feeling within himself. And he said that at that time, because of everything going on, because it actually was his parent that was also suffering from a mental illness, but it wasn't a mental illness, it was actually an addiction. So he was suffering with depression, and his parent was suffering with an addiction. And he said because of her addiction, she would say, okay, I'm going to get you help, and then she would just put it off. And eventually he had spoke to another person, and the other person said, well, we can't get you help unless your parent signs off because you're underage. So eventually he got the paperwork over to his mom. His mom eventually signed off on it, and he went into counseling by himself, and then eventually he went into family counseling, which he brought his mom into it. But before she could do that in a healthy way, they all knew that she would need to get some kind of recovery treatment first so that she can go into this family counseling with them, and then everyone can heal together healthy. But he said it was just so hard for him to even get to that spot of getting the help that he needed, asking for the help, because he just felt as though he thought that it was going to bring a disconnection from him and his mom, even though there was already a disconnection because, like I said, she had an addiction and he was already suffering from mental illness, and there was an isolation. She was never really around. He was home alone a lot. And he said whenever she was around, he would try to bring it up to her because he really wanted to help. And he didn't want to continue hurting himself because that's what he was doing. And his parents just felt as though it was a stage of life that he was going through. He would be okay. You'll be okay. Don't worry about it. This is just something you're going through. You'll get through it. And he said he just was tired of it. He knew that he was not going to get through it because of all the thoughts that were going through his mind, the things that he was feeling within him. He knew that he needed something more than just talking to his mom. And eventually, his mom did take the steps that they needed so they can go ahead and get counseling and therapy and get on a plan together so they can both get healthy. But before he was even in that journey with his mom, he said it was just so hard because he felt as though he was being almost alone again because he was getting help. He was talking to someone, but his mom was still on her every day of her addiction. And eventually he went to go live with his grandma, so his mom was home alone. And eventually, I don't know how long from there, he didn't tell me, but eventually she got on track, got her recovery, and then they went into together to see the therapist. And I believe he says now it's about 7 years that his mom's been clean, about 7 years. And he's been going to, now he sees his therapist every other month, but he does some other things within that time to keep him going and continue to be healthy in his journey with the mental illness. But the reason why I wanted to share that today was because I know for anyone that's listening that maybe is going through this or went through this, and I just want you to know that it's not a weakness to ask for help. It's not being selfish by just saying, hey, it's me and I really do need help. Can I please get some help? Help me get the help. No. It's a strength because you're realizing and you're showing up for yourself that you want to do better. You know, you don't no longer want to just drag in this isolation in this dark hole every day, fighting a battle that you really can't beat unless you get the help. You know, and when you're standing up for yourself and really saying, I need the help, regardless of your, you know, your situation, your space, you know, there's more than one person dealing with the mental illness or just an illness of an addiction, and you're standing up for yourself and you're pulling yourself out of that dynamic, that's a strength. Because it takes a lot to really wrap your head around something different that you're not used to. So, you know, you're already showing up for yourself. You're wrapping yourself mentally and physically around a whole new you. And that's really, really a good thing. That's really a big strength. It's not being guilty, feeling guilty. It's not being selfish. You know, it's showing up for yourself and you want to do better. And that's really important that we love ourselves unconditionally, where we'll stand up for ourselves and we get the help that we need regardless of our situation. And eventually, you know, if it is someone in your circle or someone at home with you, and eventually when they're ready, you'll get them, put them on the same journey with you so you both can heal healthy. But, you know, it's like I always say, if someone else that you notice close to you or lives with you or is part of your family, but they don't want to join this journey with you, do the journey anyway. They will catch up if it's meant to be. Because you can't force someone to get help, whether it's for a mental illness or an addiction. You can't force that on them because they're not going to recover healthy. They're not going to heal healthy because it's something that they didn't want. It was pushed onto them. So you go ahead and get the help that you need. They will catch up to you when they're ready. And when they do, then you all can heal healthy. But don't put yourself off because someone else is not ready. If you're ready, make sure you get the help that you need, whether it's for a mental illness or an addiction. If you're ready, do what you need to do. Show up for yourself and get the help that you need for yourself. Do not brush anything off that's going to be for your well-being for someone else. Remember, it's your life at your time. You know, we live life at our terms. And we can't live our life through someone else, just like someone else can't live their life through us. So, and time doesn't wait for no one. So if you're ready now, make sure you get the help now. And if you know someone else out there that you believe that they're ready, try to push it onto them to go ahead and get help. Don't force them. If you think they are ready, talk to them and get them to get the help that they need. But you can't push it on them. You know, it's hard to say, you know, well, I'm not going to worry about so-and-so, you know, a loved one, because I'm going to do this on my own. I need the help, and I get it. You know, you probably feel as though you're leaving that person behind, or you feel as though you're going to do better, but they're still messed up. And I get it. We're human beings. That's just natural for us to feel those emotions because we care. But at the same time, we got to realize that we got to do what we need to do for ourselves. We need to get healthy so that we can go ahead and be there for someone else. We can't take care of someone else or love someone else if we can't take care of ourselves or love ourselves first. We have to make sure we're healthy so that we can make sure our loved ones are just as healthy as also. You know, we can't help someone else to get healthy if we're not healthy. You know, you'll be falling through the gaps. So it's really important to just really, you know, go with your gut feeling. Go with what you feel within yourself. Take a pause and talk to yourself. And if you're ready, make the move and get yourself some help. Because every day by the second, we're losing beautiful souls to the mental illness. We're losing beautiful souls to the addiction. And we're losing beautiful relationships, you know? Just for simple things that we can try to fix, you know, whether it's a relationship that needs support, you know, or coaching, whether it's a marriage that needs support and coaching. We have so much going on in this world, you know, or just spiritual, you know, people just losing their touch of their journey because we're putting ourselves off for somebody else, or we're not just trying to connect more or care more to ask more questions, or just really listen to one another and try to work it out. Sometimes we just brushing them things off, and they're really important, and just by the second, things are just happening to all of us because we're not pausing and really trying to connect with one another, trying to connect with your loved ones, trying to really, if you know someone that's dealing with a mental illness, check up on them, give them a call. I know everybody wants to be texting, but anybody can text you anything, but you got to really see their face, see how they look. Texting is not going to tell you if someone's about to take their life, because they can answer you back and say whatever they think you want to hear. But if you see someone's face, and if they're your loved ones, you're going to know, you're going to feel it, that something is wrong. Take the extra step. FaceTime them or go knock on their door, go see them in person. Like I said, anybody can text anything. You'll never get the reality or the truth behind a text. But you'll always get the truth out of somebody's face. The eyes. If you know them, you will know. Just take the extra step. If you know someone that's suffering with a mental illness or an addiction, check up on them. Ask questions. Talk to them. See their body language. See their atmosphere. See what they're, where they're at, their space at that moment. What does it look like? And just put a little bit of more love into that support, into that caring for that loved one. It's really important that they really realize that someone really does care for them. Someone really does support them. And someone is really waiting for them to get better. We just have to really show them that. Because a lot of times they're so lost in their mental illness or their addiction that they're not seeing all of this. They're not understanding that. They're lost. If they can help themselves, believe me, they would. Because no one wakes up wanting to have one type of mental illness. No one wakes up to want to be addicted to something. No way. These are things that happen to people that they cannot control. And once they realize that they're so deep under, they can't get up out of it. They need help. They need support. They need love. So, if you know someone, give that to them. It's free. You don't have to pay to give someone love. You don't have to pay to support someone. You don't have to pay to care. Just do the extra step. Pause with yourself. I know we all have things that we do with ourselves on a daily basis. And I get it. We all have our own life, our own family, our own things that we have to really do for ourselves every day, and I get it. But I do know there's at least 5 minutes of your day that you can go check up on that loved one. 5 minutes of a day. Don't text. Go see them. Go look at their eyes, look at their face, look at their surroundings. Because you just never know. That might be the last day you see them. It's really important that we understand that with these illnesses. We're not promised. Just like they're not promised tomorrow, we're not promised tomorrow. No one's promised tomorrow, but you know what? When you have an illness, you're not even thinking like that. You're not even caring. So, they're so deep in these illnesses that they could care less if they live till tomorrow or not. So that's why we want to make sure we show them this love and this support. To give them a little bit of more strength to not ever give in to that thought. Because that's what they need. Because every second of the day we're losing someone to mental illness and addiction. Because they don't know the support that's out there. They don't know that there's people out there that really do care for them. And they would really just walk on this journey with them until they get healed healthy. They don't know that. Why? Because the information is not out there for everywhere. Even though I have all my stuff on all major platforms worldwide, we can't get that out enough to everybody worldwide. There's no way. And that's why I say all the time, if you're out there, just share the links out there to our website. let these beautiful souls get this help for free. Let them get on these sites. Use the tools and resources. Caregivers, let them use these tools and resources so they can help and care for their loved ones with a community, with a support-based community. Push it. Push the links. You never know who needs it. They're not going to tell you that they need the help. Even though they're going to take that, what you just sent them, they're going to go on our website, or they're going to listen to our podcast, but they're not going to tell you. But it's okay. It's a win because they're doing what they need to do regardless if they tell you that they're suffering or not. So if you're out there, because I'm always looking for volunteers because our tools and our resources and our services are available worldwide. So it doesn't matter where you're sitting at right now on the map. You're able to help me. Not me, because it's not about me. You're able to help us, my organization, to help these beautiful souls get the help that they need. So if you're a licensed therapist, a licensed counselor, a licensed marriage, life coach, spiritual, reach out to us. Let's make this happen even stronger than what I'm already doing. Let's make this bigger than what it already is. Let's reach a broader map. Let's reach it. I'm hitting the whole map. But shoot, if we can just read out the whole map, clear the whole map out with no one missing it, that's what I want. So let's make it. Let's do this. You will want this help for your loved one. You will want this help for you. So let's push it on to everyone else. They're just as important as we are. They're just as important as our loved ones. There's someone else's loved ones. There's someone else's important, But let's all put it together. We're all as one. If my child was in the streets with an addiction or suffering by a mental illness, I would pray to God every day someone comes and help them. And I'm sure you feel the same way. So let's do this for someone else's loved one. Let's save their loved one. Let's help them. I know a lot of people are always saying, well, I don't have the time, or, that's not my problem, that's their problem. And I get it. Everyone can feel whichever way they want to feel. I'm only asking you to volunteer or come on if this is something that you really want to do. I don't want no one out there talking negative about well, I have my own. I get it. You don't even need to be watching my podcast if this is something that doesn't really interest you. You can actually just log off. What I'm saying today is I'm not saying that everyone should volunteer. Not everyone should be worrying about mental illness or an addiction or any kind of illness. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if your heart is in it, and if this is something that you really care about, if you support this cause, join us. You support this cause, and this podcast is for you. If you don't support this cause, then this podcast is not for you, because I'm not going to talk about anything else on my podcast if it doesn't have to do about mental illness and addiction, marriage, relationship, life coaching, career coaching, or spirituality. I'm not talking about nothing else, because nothing else is my concern right now. My organization was built to help individuals with these situations. This podcast was launched to help people with these situations. But if you are listening and this is something that you support, push it along. Let's help that next person that really needs our help. It's really important that we just come together and just try to help as much as we can. We just can't leave it out there and thinking they're going to get the help. And I know that we can't help everyone, and I get it. And I know a lot of people are going to go without any type of help, not even from their community. And if you think that this is something that your community can really benefit from, please reach out to us. We'll send you the information that you need so you can go ahead and do an event in your community, or even run something like this. Collaborate with us, but run it in your community from part of our organization. But we'll just collaborate and give you all the information, tools and resources so that you can run it in your base community, supporting your community with our services. Please let us know. We're already doing this in several communities. So if your community is one also that can benefit from launching an organization like this, please reach out to us. I am licensed worldwide, so I can go ahead and collaborate with you and have you run our organization in your community through our license. So please reach out to us. And with that being said, I just want to say thank you to everyone that has been supporting us on this journey, everyone that's really taken out the time from their busy day, because I know everyone is busy, but just taking out from their busy day and reaching out to me, sending me information to share information that they've lived by and they really believe that someone else can benefit from, or just calling me. I mean, I've been getting people calling me and just sending me messages, just really giving me feedback, and that's really important, because that feedback shows me and it gives me the metrics on what's working and what's not working. And that's really important. And I want to say thank you. I know that I had this one person that sent me a bunch of metrics on different things that is happening in the world with mental illness and addiction. And she just really gave me back so much feedback on what she's been hearing. She's been listening to my podcast from day one. And I want to say thank you. She knows who she is, as I was just talking to her this morning. And she just really went beyond and put together a slide for me, showing me everything that I've been doing. And she's going to school for behavioral health. And she put everything that I've been talking about and what's been going on in the world, worldwide. And she just really did the metrics on what I've been hitting. And I was so surprised that I basically hit everything on her chart. There was 2 or 3 things that I haven't hit. But basically everything on her chart that she's been learning, I've been hitting. And she broke everything up for me, and it was amazing what she did. And I just want to say thank you. But that type of feedback is so appreciated, because now it gives me a look on what else I can add on to my podcast, what other information I can share that people can benefit from, and what people are looking for today, help on. And I want to say thank you. And with that being said, I just want to say my statement for today. And as everyone knows that knows me, this is something that I live by. And it's okay to not be okay. And I really mean that. Regardless of how some ignorant people might make you feel, it's okay to not be okay, because there is no norm. But what's not okay is for you or anyone to ever think that they have to live in silence, in the dark, ever. That's not acceptable. Until next time, please take care of yourself and your loved ones.